Don't know if this just lifts out. Seems to. Okay, so there we have at the back end. There we have at the back end of the crank the needle roller bearing. I don't know how to assess those. I don't want to dismantle the whole thing if I don't have to, because I don't want to lose the 27 roller bearings. You can see where the roller bearings go round, but nothing, no deep scratching, which is nice. So be careful with that bearing surface. That's actually retained with a clip, I think, from the other side. Now I think the whole gear train comes out in one sitting, but I'm a little bit cautious about doing that. Just note the orientation roughly for reassembly of the selector drum. That's going to want to come out as one unit, and that's what I'm worried about, because I don't want to self-disassemble. I have put some cable ties around the top of these shafts to hold the gears from just sliding off. I mean, you could just pull them off if you wanted to apply some force, but they're there just to stop it self-dismantling from this end. Thrust washer, spring, no orientation. I can't individually remove the selector drum. It's quite well retained by the selector forks, which in turn are retained by the gears themselves. So I think the idea is that you have to wiggle the whole lot out. Okay, I'm hoping this all comes out in one without leaving the gears behind. Be fun getting this back in. There we go. Right. The first thing I'm doing is going to remove the selector drum, so that's one less thing to worry about. The next bit is see if we can lift this all out as a unit, and hopefully it won't disassemble itself. And if you think I look frightened or sound frightened, I am. Okay, I'm retracting it and I'm leaving stuff behind. So just be aware of that. Right. Put that down like so. Let's start here. So that would be the lay shaft, and this is the final drive shaft. So we've got a thrust washer, which I'm putting back on the shaft, it came off. Okay, and we have got a gear which is coming out. Try not to lose all this. Okay, I think this is the engages with the clutch. So there's a gear there. I don't see any washers or anything left behind, so I'm going to slide that onto the end of the shaft as well. Desperately trying to keep it some form of orientation. Okay, on this side I've got a thrust washer, which I'm going to try and remove carefully, keeping its orientation. Putting that on the back end of the shaft that came off. Then we have a gear, again keeping its orientation, and on the back of the gear there's a thrust washer. I'm putting that back onto the shaft that came off, and I think that's it. Interesting, there's a bronze insert in there to act as a bearing. Okay, the next bit I believe is the kickstart mechanism, and this may self-dismantle as well if I'm not careful. Yeah, it's trying to. Out you come. Right. And there's a thrust washer at the bottom as well, which I'm going to get on there quick. so that we retain that. Okay, we'll look at that as an individual unit, but first I'm going to get that secure with cable ties, stop it dismantling. So that should stop everything from self-dismantling, but just as a note, it looks like we've got the thrust washer, then there's this unit which includes this, I don't know if you call it a spring, it's like a locating wire, which is on a rotary shaft. Oh, that's interesting. So it slides on this rotary shaft. Again, I don't know if there's an orientation to that or whether it can go anywhere on that shaft. I think it can go anywhere on this shaft. So we've got the washer, we've got this unit with the dog teeth on, we've got the sliding mechanism, and we've got the gear that is freewheeling. I guess, yeah, there's a circlip holding that together. So yeah, so I'm not sure we want much to do with this. I will check the teeth over to make sure they're all nice and sharp and not bent or in any bad way, but it certainly feels nice. And again, I'm going to use cable ties, hopefully with some success, to try and stop it self-dismantling before I get a chance to look at each individual unit. Okay, so if I get that on there, if I double cable tie it, stands a better chance. Right, I think I'm going to remove the selector forks from them now. I don't know if these are just going to run off or whether they're held in place. I think there are ball bearings on springs on it. But let me just have a look. Each of these has a location that it falls into. So there's like a channel, and I guess there's a channel there. Let's have a look. Will it, won't it come apart? It should do. There we go, that's apart, and that's apart, and there's the selector forks. On the off chance that this does self-dismantle, this is the orientation. There is one of these that has a hole in it, which I think has a ball bearing and a spring, which retains it in its slot and maintains its position on the bar. The middle one is shaped. Oh, sorry. The one with the ball bearing also had dog legs straight from this angle. The one in the middle seems to be free floating, and its orientation is with the knob at the front and fairly straight legs, and they're curving away. And then the third one is free floating, and that has the selector drum knob facing away, and the forks are in that orientation. So effectively they are like that, opposing. The single arm runs into this one here, and the doubles run into this one. Also note the orientation of the drivetrain. They do all line up, so there's a gear for every gear. The splined end is the opposite end to the splined end, or the final drive sprocket end here. So when reassembling, that's the orientation it should be in. Inspection of both these units show that there are no missing teeth and they're all in good condition. In fact, there's barely any signs of wear whatsoever, suggesting that this is actually a low mileage motorcycle. So all I'm going to do with these is, before reinstallation, I'm going to clean them, make sure there's no grit or crap in there, and then reinstall them as I found them. I see no point in disassembling them any further than they're at. The selector drum appears to be in perfect condition. There's no signs of wear, even on the points where they change direction. It's fabulous, and there's no signs of corrosion either. The bearings on the crank feel to be in excellent condition. There's absolutely no graunchiness, no loose play, and very smooth in operation. The conrod bearings feel smooth. I don't feel any roughness or any play. Not that this is a technical gauge of it, but yeah, I'm not feeling anything that I would feel concerned about. even though this bike has, I think I checked earlier, about 3,500 miles on it, it's not a big mileage bike, this bearing is going to have to come out, and it locks up. You can feel it. I don't know if you saw that, but as you come round, there's a spot where occasionally there it locks up, so that is no good at all. So the safest thing to do is to try and extract that. However, this is a blind bearing, and I don't have a blind bearing puller,